I'm going to show you two really simple ways to make really simple catapults. These are a lot like the Perriers that we've learned about in class. So you're going to want to just use recycling, any old thing you can find. So if you have spoons, that's great. If you have forks, that's okay too. But you want to find things that are round. So the first one I'm going to use is using a toilet paper roll. If you don't have a toilet paper roll, maybe you could find something else that's round. Now this is when I'm going to use one of those rubber bands that doesn't have a lot of stretch left. It's pretty stretched out. I wouldn't want to use this for a crossbow, but it's okay for this little quick catapult that I'm making. I'm going to stretch it around and just use it to attach my spoon or my fork, or maybe I've got another type of stick that I'm going to use, but I'm going to attach it to my tube. Now you want a round tube. Toilet paper tube or paper towel tube is great. And look at that. That shoots really, really well. So I'm going to try that one more time. Put my cotton ball in. And you can't see it, but that's taking off really, really well. So I really like how this turned out. And even though it's a little bit crooked, it still is working and it's a lot of fun to play with. Now this is a can, and this can has a lot more mass than the toilet paper tube does. So I'm going to use a big long piece of tape, and I want to make sure my tape is longer than the can so that I can put it on the can but also stretch it around the other sides. And I'm going to put it on that fork just like that. I'm going to put the fork, I'm going to try to get to the middle of the can as close as I can. And then I'm going to put that tape on. I'm going to smooth it down just like that, and then I'm going to smooth it over the edges. So there it is. I'm smoothing it down, smoothing it over the edge. I'm going to smooth it over that edge right there. Okay, so now there's my can. And now this fork, right, it rolls, and it has a lot, because the can is heavier than the toilet paper roll, it performs just a little bit differently. Yeah, so that one's much heavier than the cardboard. So that's kind of a nice touch. You can see how having a fulcrum that has more mass versus one that's lighter, how that performs differently, right? It doesn't flip like the other one does. I like having both around, but the thing is, you can't really see. It does fire, but it doesn't fire as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a holding basket. So here's some paper. Literally, it's paper I've used for other stuff. I'm saving it, so I use every little tiny bit. And I'm going to cut up a square. Really, this is technically still a rectangle. It's not a perfect square, but that's okay. I'm going to try to get as close to a square as I can, and I'm going to cut out little teeny tiny notches in the corner. So there's one corner notch. I'm going to do that for all four corners of my square. And don't stress if your square isn't perfect. It can be a rectangle. Just try to get it as square-like, as close to a square as you can get. So now I've cut out those four little hatches, and I'm going to show you how to fold this together and use some tape to turn it into just a little box, like a little basket that we can put on our fork. So I'm going to fold one side down, just like that. Okay, there's one side. I folded it down. Now I need to fold the opposite parallel side. So parallel means two lines that are next to each other, but they're never going to cross, they're never going to meet, they're never going to intersect. So those two sides, the top and the bottom, are parallel sides. Parallel. Okay, now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the other two sides, which are also parallel. Those are two lines, two sides, that while they might be next to each other, they'll go on forever and ever and ever, and they will never meet because they are parallel. Okay, so those are my two parallel sides. And now I'm going to try and fold it together and make a box. And right away, I'm noticing that I did not cut my hatches, my little slits, long enough. So I'm going to cut them longer now. And it's okay. You don't have to do things perfect the first time. That's what we call trial and error. I rarely ever get anything perfect the first try. I don't think I ever get anything perfect the first try. Sometimes I have to try over and over and over and over. Okay, so now those little slits that I've cut, those are much bigger. They're going to make for much bigger sides of my little basket, my little box. So now I'm going to fold my parallel sides again. There's one side, there's the other side. Those are my two parallel sides. Now I'm going to unfold them. I'm going to fold the other two parallel sides. One side and another side, just like that. Now I'm going to try and fold my corners together. Don't worry if you don't get this perfect. If it doesn't look like a perfect box, it doesn't have to be. Just needs to be able to hold your projectile. I like to shoot cotton balls as projectiles because they're soft. You're not going to hurt anybody or break anything with a cotton ball. So I'm going to put some tape on there to hold these together. And remember, before you launch your projectiles, ask your grown-ups what it's okay to use. Different grown-ups have different rules. There's my other little overlap. I'm going to tape that together. And you want to make sure you're not launching something that your grown-ups don't want you to launch. So make sure you ask permission before you test this out. Okay, so there's two sides, and it's looking sort of like a box. It's not a perfect square or a perfect rectangle, but that's okay. It's good enough. And here I'm ripping off some more pieces of tape. What I should have done was rip my tape ahead of time. That's what good engineers do, prepare all their materials before they start. But I was being a little careless, and that's okay because we're just having fun. So I'm folding that over, and I'm going to try and make my little box. Now maybe you don't want to make a box. Maybe you want to make something else to hold your projectile on your fork. Or maybe you have spoons so you don't need to. Or maybe you have little cups and you can tape or glue your cups on there. You don't have to do this exactly the way that I did it. You basically want to have a swing arm, and that's going to be your fork or your stick or your spoon. There's my little basket. It's going to hold my projectile. And then you want to have something that it will function as your fulcrum. So that could be a can, that could be a cardboard tube. Maybe you roll some paper together or you roll cardboard together. Maybe you have something else in your toy box you might want to use. So now I'm going to take my basket and I'm going to tape it to my fork. So I'm making sure the tape is on the fork and that the tape is touching the sides. And now I'm going to fold that tape right into my basket. This way I'm making contact, my adhesive's making contact with as much of the basket and the fork as I can. So now I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to grab some cotton and see how this works. Here we go. Oops. Now that's okay. I didn't get that right the first time. I'm going to try again. Now that worked okay, but I have an idea to help it work a little bit better. I'm going to use this roll of tape so that my basket does not touch the table. Now that worked really, really well. So it didn't have as far to go. So you can try propping yours up with something else. And remember, before you launch any projectiles, ask your grown-ups what would be okay to launch and where in your house it would be okay for you to launch, okay? Don't just start launching stuff before you ask permission, and have fun. You don't have to do it exactly the way I did it. Okay, bye-bye.